U.S. Representative Mark Sanford has been in Congress just under 2 months now. WHHI's own Jenny Lockhart caught up with him to get his perspective on the transition from South Carolina back to D.C.
Hi, I'm Jenny Lockhart with the WHHI News Exclusive. Joining me today is Congressman Mark Sanford. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So the Farm Bill has been in the news. Did the second vote after the first one failed. So could you give us some information about your take on that?
My take was that, I voted against it. I think that at the end of the day was where most taxpayers would be here along the coast. It's not to say that Republicans didn't try hard to get it right, and a lot of people didn't work hard. But if you look at the bill, I wouldn't want to take a bet against, commodity prices when farmers are the ones making the bet, which is in essence the way this bill went down. So the bill originally came to the House, combined welfare and basically farming,
right,
which has been the case for a long time. It failed. Came back with just pure farming or crop subsidies. And they basically took a direct payment system, which is what we've historically had, and replaced it with an insurance system. That sounds good. Mm-hmm. The problem is, if you look at where commodities are globally, they're hovering around all-time highs. And the insurance system is based on those prices staying there. I think that's a bad bet, because when commodity prices eventually fall, the taxpayers are going to be left holding the bag. So I think at the end of the day, it was a step in the way toward reform, but at the end of the day, it's going to have a big big price tag, if you will, for the taxpayer, and as a consequence, voted against it.
Okay. Now, the Obama administration has voted to delay a portion of the Obamacare. Can you let us know about your stance on that?
I think it's primarily politically driven. I don't think it's policy driven. I think the administration's reading the tea leaves. They're seeing a lot of blowback in a political sense. And they're saying if we continue to advance on this, it's going to really cost us in the midterm congressional elections, and therefore I'm going to basically defer. I would agree with the idea of deferring, but I don't think I'd agree with the idea of where the administration's coming in deferring, which is still to advance the overall package, which I think has harmful effect in terms of the Hippocratic Oath and the medical system that we have in this country. And I think it has equally, if not greater, harmful effect with regard to job creation and, again, taxpayer consequence. So I think that's one of those bills that's going to continue to ruminate, if you will, and rumble throughout the Congress as different proposals are out there, frankly, for paring it back.
Sure. Now, we were talking before about immigration reform. Could you give us some information about your stance on that?
I think it's a really sort of white-hot issue in political sense. You hear from both folks, both perspectives. People have very strong viewpoints. The Senate passed its bill, but it spends additional billions upon billions upon billions on, quote, border security, with no real trigger as to whether or not we've gotten to the point of border security. And I think what a lot of conservatives are alarmed about, and I would put myself in this camp, is, wait a minute, we tried this before, putting amnesty before
Sure.
enforcement. The last big immigration bill in this country was in 1986, and basically we gave amnesty to 3 million illegal workers and said we'll have enforcement that will follow. Here we are years later, the enforcement never came,
right,
but the workers are. And so I don't think if we get the combination wrong, we're going to end up with a different result. So I think we've got a real problem with regard to where a lot of folks are focused on what we're going to have or not have with regard to enforcement.
Sure. Now, you're back in D.C. We were just talking about that. How's the transition been?
It's quite a change. You walk up the steps and there are guys up there with machine guns.
Right.
That was never the case before.
Yeah.
But it's a remarkably human institution, and it's a treat to be, getting to reacquaint with old friends and make some new ones up there.
Well, good. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
And I'm Jenny Lockhart. Thanks for joining us.